In this video, I'm going to show you how certain places in Scotland can still feel beautiful, wild and remote, even on the worst of weathers. I'll also let you see my newest piece of gear and the debate on whether hill walking and outdoor activities are trendy or not. Stay tuned until the end for more. Well, good evening or good morning or whatever time you're watching this, and I'm in the van. As you can see, it's another Friday night and I finished work today and headed off. This is actually plan B. I'm not where I was hoping to be. I was hoping it was going to be a bit colder and I was going to head up the west coast, but I'm not. I'm here and I'm glad I've come here because I've got a new piece of gear which I've been after. I've been saying for about 5 years now I need to get this. I need to replace the bit of gear that I'd had before and it was getting on a bit. So I finally got it, and it's going to be its first test of this new piece of gear tomorrow. So hopefully, well, you'll definitely see it tomorrow. The other thing I was going to talk about, I've been thinking about this all week, is how things have changed in hill walking and climbing and generally outdoor activities from when I first started in my late teens. I think now, and maybe it's me just getting old, but there's a lot more. The youth seem to be doing it a lot more, which is great. And it certainly seems to be, it's not seen as an old man's pursuit now. It certainly wasn't a trendy thing for sure when I was starting. And I'll tell you maybe some stories about that. And I think, I don't know, just in the last few years, and I don't think it's COVID related, it might be, but I've seen a lot more young people and what have you in the hills, and maybe social media has got something to do with it. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I've had a cup of tea, I've settled down, so yeah, I'm just going to get myself ready. I'm not at the site where I start the walk. You can't park overnight there, so I'm parked a wee bit further up the Glen. I'm about 600 metres high at the moment, but it's not cold. So yeah, let's report back in the morning and you'll see where I am, you'll see my new gear, and we can have a chat about whether hill walking and climbing and outdoor stuff is trendy or not. Right, let's see. Let's go to bed and yeah, I'll see you in a few hours. Right, good morning. It's, what time is it? Oh, 7:10. There's a wee bit of light around in the sky. I don't know if you can make out too much round about me, but the tops are in the cloud, but the cloud isn't right down, which is what I was expecting. So yeah, it's all right. Yeah, not too bad at all. So yeah, let's get going. Might be able to see in the back of my van my new piece of gear, but I'll bring you back and take you through that. It's a deteriorating forecast. God, I can't speak. So I'm keen to get going as early as possible. So about 5 minutes down the road, and hopefully by that point I'll have finished my coffee and there'll be more light in the sky and I can get my new bit of gear down and get cycling along the Glen. Right, let's go. I'll bring you back when I'm at the other car park. So I'd been parked in the upper reaches of Glen Cluny, and it wasn't really a long way to travel down to get to the start of the walk. I just knew you're not meant to park overnight at the parking spot where I was headed for, so I'd parked a bit further up the road and headed down, and it only took me about 5 or 10 minutes and I was soon arriving at the starting point for my adventure ahead, where I'd be getting to try out my new piece of gear. Oh, right. Second coffee. Did a new bike, nothing too fancy, but I've literally for about 5 or 6 years been saying I need to replace my bike. I think the final straw was when I was at Louisbelt with Ray from RS Outdoors. Go and check his channel out. And the only sort of tarmac or freewheeling bit that we could freewheel down, my brake pad fell out. My brakes failed, and that was it. That was the final straw. I have since fixed it, but yeah, it's knackered. I've had it repaired so many times. So I actually used the cycle to work scheme, which I've never done before, and got this bike. It's a Trek. As I said, nothing fancy, but anyway, let's see how it goes today. There's a few different features. There's only one cog in the front. That's apparently normal. Somebody laughed at me when I said that. Just shows you how long it's been since I've purchased a bike. Yeah, so I'm at Callater, and there's going to be a few miles in. There's a few things I'm a bit worried about today, not just the clag in the hills. There's two ways round the loch. You can leave the bike at a Bothy and then it goes onto a footpath, which I might take the bike along anyway, or there's the 4x4 track or the Land Rover track goes round the other side of the loch, but if you do that, there's a river crossing at the other end, so there's no bridge. And that was my original plan, so I could take the bike further, but we'll see. Anyway, let's get this coffee and I'll report back when I'm on the trail and maybe talk a bit more about how fashionable outdoor activities are. I've stopped out 4 or 5 times to change the height of my new bike seat. I think I've got it just right now. I've got long legs, you see, all my height's in my legs, so I don't like them being too short. I like my feet to extend when I'm pedaling. Anyway, it's nicer than expected. I'll spin you around. You can actually see there's almost some blue sky up there, which is totally unexpected, but welcomed. And yeah, one of the reasons I chose this area is although the forecast is bad, well, not bad, but not great, it's certainly better than anywhere else in Scotland. So we'll see. It'll be a bonus if I don't have to put my waterproofs on today, but I'm not sure. Anyway, on we go. The bike's been great, so much more comfortable. It's taken a bit of getting used to though. The gears, there's only one set of gears on the right hand side. Usually I'm used to 2, but should make things easier actually. Right, I'll report back later on. Let's go. The Land Rover track's pretty good as well, to be honest with you. It's relatively smooth. I'm glad I've got suspension forks. A bit rocky, but yeah, not bad. And I'm also glad that I've got these tubeless rims, so hopefully no punctures. Let's go. The 4x4 track really was excellent for cycling along, and there were still a few patches of residual snow from the previous week's cold weather, but in the main most of that snow had melted, which had made the ground pretty saturated, as I was about to find out. Right, first obstacle. This doesn't bode well for the actual river crossing on the other side of the loch. There's a lot of water due to the snow melt. Anyway, let's go. I'm not far from the loch. In fact, I can just about see it. The decisions have to be made now. Do I go round the footpath or do I continue round the 4x4 track and risk that river crossing, because the ground is quite wet. I'm not sure if it's going to be quite deep, but I'm not sure. But look at this. Look at this, lovely. Wow. Let's get off the bike here and I'll show you the view. Wow. What a place. Look at that. Isn't that lovely? Wind's getting up though. Gorgeous. And there's the Bothy. It's there and the track runs around that side, so I'm not sure. I'm undecided. Doesn't look too bad. The stepping stones there are just out of the water. It would save me a bit of time, so what a wonderful spot. It's just lovely. There's a layer of ice which is slowly thawing. It's thawed in closer to the shore here. It looks like you'd almost walk across that or take the bike across it, but I can see the ice is about, I don't know, about an inch thick here, so yeah, I wouldn't fancy going across there. Right, I think I'm going to go up this path and just see if I can get across the burn at the other side. Worst case scenario is I can't, and I go back and come back this way, but wow, what a place. What a place. So my mind was made up I was going to try the 4x4 track as it would allow speedier progress on the bike, but that wouldn't be speedier if I had to turn all the way back. I was a bit concerned about the river on the other side and whether I'd be able to ford it or not. Anyway, the best thing about today in this cycling was that this track gained some height and allowed me these views down over Loch Callater. And look at these amazing ice formations that were, well, they weren't really noticeable at the level of the loch, so coming up this a bit higher up you could really see them. So I'll leave you with some drone footage here just to take it all in before bringing you back at the river crossing. After taking in these amazing Arctic-like ice sculptures on the Loch, I knew I had to get going because the weather was going downhill. So I headed back on the bike and along the northern shores and dropped down to the point where I'd have to cross the river. Right, I've reached the river. I'm going to leave my bike here, padlock up. Let's show you. The weather's a bit danker now. It's more like it was forecast. But the ford's here. Probably doesn't look too bad on the camera, but I'm thinking the shallowest point is going to be around about here somewhere, and it might just be, when I put my gaiters on, and it might just be a case of me, getting across there. I might get wet feet if I do, and I do, but I'm going to way up here. The Munro's called Tolmount. It's another 2 or 3 kilometres up here, so let's head on. Let's get the gaiters on and see if I can get across this river without getting loads of water in my boots. Let's go. These have got internal gaiters as well, these over trousers. They're really good from Decathlon. So I make sure they're down and then put my other gaiters on. And we'll see how wet I get across this river. My poles will come in handy here as well because I'm running across a riverbed. I don't want to trip and fall, obviously, for obvious reasons. With my gaiters on and tightened up, I headed across the burn and I tried to stick to the line of where I thought the ford was, and it wasn't too bad. It was certainly above boot height for a few steps, but I was glad to get across without getting completely and utterly soaked. It'd be hard enough to stay dry with the weather conditions as they were without worrying about wet feet. Well, I made it across the river, as you probably saw. I'm glad I had the gaiters because it was up to, I don't know, shin height I think. So without the gaiters I would have had water in my boots, as they say. But yeah, the weather really has turned a bit more manky now. So I'm glad I've got my waterproofs on. Usually you can get a great view of the hill. I'll spin you around, you'll not see anything, but I'll show you what it's meant to be. Yeah, the greyness over here, it's usually a nice peak at the end of the Glen, Tolmount, and I've done it a few times before, never done it from this side. In fact, the last time I came up here, I think I saw the royal party. There was about 8 or 9 blacked out Land Rovers heading up towards the lodge, and I was heading over to some Munros further north, but I've never been on this stretch here up to Tolmount. So let's see, I might make it, I might not. It's pretty manky now, but let's see. The weather now was pretty Scottish. The rain was coming down in sheets and it was certainly living up to the forecasted wet day that I was expecting. And this point here was really quite marshy as well, funnily enough, as it's a floodplain. But I soon made it onto the path and started heading uphill in the rain. This is wonderful. It's a bit wet and manky, but the beauty about this, you might be able to see behind me, I don't know if you can make it out, excuse me, That's going up to a loch, and I camped there a few years ago. I'll put a video link in the description below, and also I'll put it on the end screen, but go and check that video out because you'll see the majestic beauty of this place, and it really is special. And what's good about here, they don't get raved about these hills very often. I mean, this is the hill over here. Again, you probably can't see it. That's Tolmount. I'll be heading up there, but I'm going up the Glen here and then cutting back. Yeah, they don't get raved about very often, you know, and quite rightly so. Places like Glen and Skye are, you know, people get excited about them. They're a bit more trendy. But there's something about these glens just up beside the Glen ski centre. They're not that popular, and when you get through and into them, into these deep clefts, this is the best part about them. It's not the summits, because it's just a plateau up there. It's pretty boring. It's these deep clefts into the landscape, and the steep-sided cliffs. Just very, very atmospheric. It's beautiful. Probably one of the most wild and beautiful places. Although you're not wilderness, although you feel you are. Again, if you're in Skye or, I don't know, Glen, they're majestic mountains, but you don't get that feeling of isolation that you get here, because you can always hear the road or see the road, whereas here, it feels like it's just me. An old jock. Anyway, right, let's continue up, and I'll report back in a while. What I was referring to as Old Jock was, yeah, basically based on the path that I was following, which is known as Jocks Road, and it runs over from Glendale to Braemar, and it's an ancient cattle pass. And I think it was called Jocks Road after a farmer who was involved in access right legislation in the 19th century, although there are bits and bobs of evidence to suggest that it's been called Jocks Road for hundreds of years, not just because of that incident. Anyway, it was kind of hard to follow Jocks Road in places because of the snow cover. The wet, damp, heavy snow was interlaced with some icy sections as well, and it's pretty featureless up here. But before long, I was reaching the summit of the Munro. Ooh, here's the summit, and this is the top of Tolmount. As you can see, it's pretty featureless. Pretty featureless all the way up, to be honest. How long does that take me? I've got a new fancy dancy watch, which tells me lots of things. So since I left the bike, so the hiking part of here is taking me nearly 2 hours, 1 hour 50, ascent 522 metres, and it's just under 6 kilometres. So yeah, I'll put the stats up at the end, but yeah, so this is the Munro. Most people that would come here would probably go on to do another Munro called Tolmount. It's only about probably 20 or 30 minutes away, but I'm not going to do it today. I've done it a few times already, and it's not really that nice, as you can probably see. The rain has gone off, which was on earlier on, so that's at least a bonus. But yeah, this cloud is down, the wind's picking up, and there's more rain due in, so it's a deteriorating forecast, as I said. So I'm just going to head back down. I'm actually going to head for the Bothy, and when I get to the Bothy, I'll maybe talk a bit more about the about hill walking becoming a bit more popular and all that sort of stuff. But for now, let's just the main thing about these hills is you have to be really, really on it with your navigation. Coming in's not too bad with those steep-sided glens, but up here it's pretty much featureless plateau, and the path comes and goes. It's not a given. It's disappeared a few times, especially when you're crossing snow, which I have done a few times. So yeah, let's head back down. I'll report back down a bit further down the glen, and yeah, let's head for the Bothy, and I'll give you a tour of that when we get down there. Right, let's go. The same care was required in descent as was needed on ascent on the way up, and that was to make sure I was going back down the right way. So I had my GPS out and was taking bearings in the rather claggy conditions, and I was glad when I started to get some views and just about dropped beneath the clouds, because it's a wonderful, wonderful place. Well, I'm dropping back down now. Rain's back on. But isn't this just wonderful? Let me just show you. Just something about it. You just don't get the same, like, it's never going to come out in the camera, and this is a wee action cam as well, but you know, it just feels so wild and remote with the clouds hanging over the tops. You just don't know how far up the mountains go when it's like that. It's just lovely. A lot more interesting here than it was up on the top of the Monroe, which is up there. It's special. Even on a day like today, I mean, I know on a blue sky day it'd be beautiful as well, but this is just absolutely gorgeous. Look at that. Something about it. Wild. Absolutely wild. Right, let's get to the Bothy. Let's get to the bike first, and then to the Bothy. Let's go. Well, I've been waiting for the rain to kind of abate a little bit before stopping. It's kind of gone off a wee bit now. It's been on and off all day, to be fair. What a place. I feel very content today, even though the weather's a bit manky. What a place. Anyway, right, I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna have a sausage. No, not I'm gonna have a sausage. I'm gonna have a Scotch egg. Because I've only had one small pork pie for breakfast today. So let's do that. Let's get some food in me. Right. Quick bite to eat, and then we'll get down to the bike, and hopefully to the Bothy. Still might be an hour or two before I get to the Bothy, so that's why I'm having something to eat just now. So I had my Scotch egg to keep me going, and soon set about getting down towards the bike. But before I got to the bike, of course, I had to make the crossing of the stream. Still absolutely closing it down, as you can probably see. I'm back down on the floodplain, and now I've got to get back across the river, so it was a bit easier to see the line that I took. I think it was kind of across that way when I came across. I can't quite see it as well, but yeah, let's go. I'll put you onto my hip belt so you can see my feet, and let's hope my feet stay dry again like they did in the rain. Right, let's do this. Hip cam belt. Not entirely sure my feet are, not sure if it's the internal gaiters which are damp. Anyway, there's a bike. Yeehaw! Let's get back down. I'll report back at the Bothy. Right, let's do this. Get stuff away. I was certainly glad to get back across the river. Wasn't too sure if those levels would have risen with the snow melt and the incessant rain that I'd walked through since passing over it. Anyway, I was looking forward to getting back on the bike and getting down to the Bothy and maybe getting a wee bit of shelter in there, because it was pretty manky. Let's just say that. Typical Scottish weather. Hopefully you can hear this. Not got my mic on, it's been lazy, but these ice formations are still there on the Loch. Look at that. Isn't that amazing? Saw them on the way up, and took some drone shots. Absolutely beautiful. Probably the best thing about today. Anyway, right, I'm just a wee steep section there where I've been pushing the bike. Time to get on and make some progress down the Glen to the Bothy. Look at that. Beautiful. Right, I'm going to go and have a wee gander at the Bothy. I think there's folk there. I've seen folk, so I might not be able to do my bit to camera that I want to do. It's up there. Ooh, let's go and see. Have a wee look. I don't like doing this when there's people around. I'm glad we spot for the Bothy. Look at that, right over views over Loch Callater. Beautiful. Breaking up a bit now as well. Yeah, I don't think this is the Bothy. I think the Bothy is around the corner. So at this point somebody actually came out of the Bothy. It was actually quite busy. There was 3 or 4 couples, but they didn't mind. I did ask if I could put my camera on just to give you a wee tour, and there's a wee couple of bunk beds in one of the rooms in the Bothy, and then the main room has a wee dining area there. There's a couple of roof lights and then some sleeping platforms at the other end as well. So there's space. I don't know if you could maybe cram in a few folk, but it's not a massive Bothy. It's lovely. It's a lovely position. Must be quite popular though. Right, there's somebody here, so I'm not going to stay. I'll report back later on. Look at this, the sunshine's almost coming out, but yeah, you can probably tell there's people in the Bothy, so didn't do too much. But I've got a funny feeling there's something to do with the royals come up to here and use this. I might be wrong. Somebody in the comments tell me. I'm sure there's footage of a young Queen Elizabeth up here somewhere. Anyway, I might have timed this just right for the sake of light. Look at that. Almost some sun up there. Right, because I couldn't do my bit to camera about fashionable hiking, I'll do that back in the van. And I've got a cup of coffee on, but for now let's get the bike going and get it back. The best part about bringing your bike into these sorts of walks or adventures is always the ride back out. 9 times out of 10 it's downhill, and this certainly was. It was a lovely freewheel down Glen Callater, and before long I found myself back at Loch Callater and the Campervan, where I was going to tell you a wee bit about how hill walking has changed and how it's maybe cool and trendy now. Let me know what you think after my wee chat here. Right, I'm back in the van, got my cup of tea, which is bra, and I was going to be talking about how hill walking and outdoor activities, climbing and stuff, how it's changed and how it's maybe seen as it's quite a trendy thing to do now perhaps. And I'm really sorry, it's right at the end of the video. I was hoping to chat about it on the way up, but other things got in the way. But yeah, quite simply, when I started, I suspect I was in my teens, and I remember in my 20s my wife, now wife, her boss said to her, I think she told him I was away hill walking, and he basically said, was he not too young for that? And that certainly was the case when I mean, yeah, 90s, I think it was seen, maybe it was just a perception, I might be wrong, but it was like an old man or middle-aged man's pursuit, going hill walking and Monroe bagging and bagging hills. Certainly wasn't trendy, but I have noticed over the years, and I wouldn't say since COVID, but certainly the last 5 or 6 years, there's a lot more younger people on the hills, and which is great. I think it's fantastic. Or it's maybe just the fact that I'm getting older and the people that I think are younger aren't young at all. They're maybe old. They're just relatively young compared to me. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know if it's maybe got to do with social media, things like Instagram and Facebook, and I don't know, these other ones that I don't know about, TikTok and Snapchat that my kids say I should go on, but I have no idea how they work. I think that's maybe influenced it, but long gone are the days, I think, where it was a middle-aged to old man's pursuit going out into the outdoors, and yeah, that's a blooming good thing. I suspect that the branding and all the companies have been pushing that as well, because they want young people to come in. You know, they've got longer to buy their kit and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below. Have you seen a change over the years, and do you think hill walking and climbing and kayaking and cycling is now considered cool if you're young? Anyway, on that note, on that bombshell, I'm going to leave you, going to have my tea. Thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed that. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you next week for another adventure somewhere in Scotland. Right, time to head home.